everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Traffic Jam with Cam. I am so excited that you're here to listen, and this week we are talking about Idaho versus Virginia. And that sounds very intense, I realize, but it's not really meant to be like Idaho versus Virginia. More like how is living in Idaho and how is living in Virginia? How are they different? How are they the same? What's life like in both of these places? That's more kind of the vibe that I'm going for. So just to give you guys a heads up. One is not better than another. I just thought it would be helpful and maybe kind of interesting to hear about how they're different and how they're similar. So before we jump into that, of course, I got to give you guys a recap of this week. Last weekend, Adam and I rode our bikes to a farmer's market. I can't remember if I said that in last week's episode because I think I recorded the episode right after we went. But we went to a farmer's market and it was so fun to be able to ride our bikes there. It was kind of farther away than we thought. It was like a 25-minute bike ride, which was longer than what I'm used to. I'm not really a biker, but that was super fun. There's always a lot going on, and there are a lot of farmers markets around here. So it's easy to find one that was pretty close to us. There were a lot of people there. There's always like people out walking around on the weekends, it seems. Even during the week, but more so on the weekends. People are like out and about doing stuff outside. People like walk everywhere here, which we'll talk more about. But yeah, it was super cool to be able to just ride our bikes there. We were riding around, all these big tall buildings. There's like people walking around. Kind of what you would imagine a big city to look like on the weekend. So that was cool to actually experience for the first time. And yeah, that was very fun. I would recommend that. Who doesn't love a good farmer's market though? Like, I think I told you guys that it's been hard to find like a grocery store that we love, but also it's been hard to find good produce kind of everywhere. And I got some recommendations from people here to go to farmers markets and get produce from there. So produce at farmers markets here, I guess we've only been to the one, but they're kind of more expensive at the one that we went to. So I don't know if we'll do that like every time, but the produce is better and very delicious. So it was fun to try it out and know that that's like an option. What else? It rained a bunch this week. There was a day where I was driving to work and I had my wipers on full blast. So that made things exciting. And what else? I worked my regular schedule this week, Monday through Thursday, like 10-hour days. I know we talked about that. I have Fridays off, which I love. I'm still kind of trying to figure out the whole full-time job thing. It's so weird. Like, I thought that working full-time would be better and maybe easier than doing school full-time, but it is so much more, it's so much different than I anticipated. I was talking to my friend this morning actually, and I was saying, I'm so surprised. I thought it was going to be so nice to like come home from work and not have to do homework and, not have school to like worry about after work. But with school, you're kind of somewhat flexible with your time. Like you can choose your classes. Sometimes you can decide, when you need to do homework, set aside time to kind of chill. I don't know. It just seems like there's some breaks and stuff. With working full time, it's like, obviously you're on this set schedule. And I just feel like I have no time in those first 4 days of the week. I, of course, am so grateful for having a 3-day weekend because on the Fridays, on the days that I don't work, it's nice to like have that day to spend time like cleaning the house and catching up on chores and things that I didn't have time to do at the beginning of the week. So, I mean, yeah, it's like I get to do fun stuff and kind of hang out sometimes on Fridays, but also it's like kind of feels like I'm playing catch up a little bit, because on like I go to work, I wake up before 6 and I drive to work, and I have to be there at 6:30, and then I have patients one patient every hour on the hour. So one at 7, one at 8, one at 9, 10, 11, 12, and then lunch from 1 to 2. And then you have patients at 2, 3, and 4 until 5. And then I'm usually there until like 5:30. So I'm there from 6:30 to 5:30. And I have usually about 20-minute, 30-minute lunch break sometimes. It kind of depends on the patient. A lot of times like patients run over, and then you have to finish your notes from like all your morning patients if you didn't get those finished, and clean up your room, set it up for the next patient. And then a lot of times you go to lunch, and then you have to come back at, 10, 15 till, because I don't know what's in the air, but like my patients always come early. So sometimes you can like have them wait for a little bit, but if they're there at 1:50 for their 2:00 appointment, you kind of have to just be ready and bring them back as soon as you can, so that they're not like waiting for forever. So that's kind of hard to not have a super long lunch break and then be, staying a half hour after your last patient leaves. So it just is a long day on Monday through Thursday. So, and then I, get home a little before 6 and have just a few hours to make dinner, eat dinner, hang out. Adam and I like to obviously watch an episode of Survivor. And yeah, that's about how our days go in the first 4 days of the week. So I just need to kind of learn how to manage my time better, and those hours that I'm home after work, just really like take advantage of those, figure out, prioritize things, figure out what needs to be done, take some time to kind of calm down and like relax for a little bit. But also it's like, okay, I need to find time to exercise. I need to find time to do some laundry. I need to pack my lunch for tomorrow. I need to shower tonight before I wake up tomorrow. And also, if I want to get a lot of sleep, I have to go to bed by like 9:30. It's just, anyway, I'm trying to figure out my schedule. And all of you people that work full time and you figured out your schedule, you guys are troopers. If you have any tips, send them my way, because this just feels like a whole new world. And yeah, I just feel like I'm still just as busy and have like no time as I did when I was in school. So still getting used to that, but it is really a cool feeling to be trusted with the knowledge and like the education that I've had to be able to, do dental hygiene on my own. Like it's just you and the patient when you have patients, when you're in the office, and you're just, given that responsibility and trusted that, okay, you went through, you got your 4-year degree, you did 2 years in the dental hygiene program, you saw this many patients, you passed your board exams. All right, now just, work on this patient all on your own. And I'm kind of getting more used to that. It was a little bit freaky at first, but it's been really fun, and it's cool to rely on the things that I learned in school and be able to use them and implement, the things that I had been practicing and working on for so long, and do that in the real world. So anyway, that was a very long explanation, but I feel like it's interesting, and I think it needs to be said. And for people that are in my same boat. I get you. I feel you. And we are going to figure it out together. And if you, like I said, if you have found something that works for you, or some kind of like routine or a tip or something that has helped you kind of with the transition into working full time, I would love to hear it. Yes, send them my way. I need all the help I can get. Okay, sorry. That was a very long tangent, like I said. Oh, the other thing is Adam and I are going to see Dear Evan Hansen today, later this afternoon, and I am pumped. I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited. I actually have not seen the show before, but I really love the music, so I'm looking forward to seeing that today. I will let you guys know next week how it was. All right. Next is a traffic jam of the week. You guys, I think my traffic jam of the week is just, it might just get worse every time. Well, maybe not. But this week, my traffic jam of the week is just grouchy people. I cannot stand when people are so grumpy and grouchy and rude. I don't get how you can treat someone poorly and then feel like that's okay. Or like, how do you not like feel guilty after like saying something rude to someone? Or maybe you do and it's fine. But I don't know. I just never understood that. I am just, if I'm anything but like kind to someone, it like sticks with me for so long and I just feel so bad. And so it's just so frustrating to be a person that tries hard to be kind to people and help people feel loved, and then to see others just treating people poorly and being so unkind. So that's something that really frustrates me. And this week I had 2 really, really grumpy patients. And I was just telling my sister the other day that it's so hard because you can have so many good patients the whole week and people are just kind and people are fun to talk to. And then you just have these 1 or 2 patients that are so rude or just mean and scary. And that's like what sticks with you and that's what you remember. So that's kind of a struggle. I need to be better about just brushing that off and reminding myself that I've had some really great patients. But both of these patients that were super rude and scary were both like older ladies. And one of them told me not to call her by her first name. She insisted that I called her Doctor in her last name. And that was very interesting. And she was just very short with me and kind of was just acting very much like in a rush, and she was like, oh, when is this going to be over? And it was just so uncomfortable the whole time. And my hands are usually very steady, but I was trying so hard for my hands like not to be shaky because I was just so scared the whole time that she was going to like say something mean, or I don't know. I was like, oh, please just let me be done with this, because I would just try to like make conversation with her and be friendly with her as I was getting stuff ready. Like, not when I was like, in her mouth, but just kind of like in passing, or when I first, brought her back. I was just trying to be nice and friendly, and she was like, where's the other hygienist? I want my old person back. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, they moved. And she was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do about that. Like, just stuff like that is just, that's hard to work with. But this lady was not as bad as another lady that I saw, and she just the whole time was just trying to make me miserable, and I have never had that happen before. It was so bizarre. Like, I mean, I'll keep it short, but I was taking x-rays. She told me, you better be good at x-rays because I don't like them, or And I was like, all right. And then she didn't want to put on the safety glasses. And I said, you have to because your eyes need to be protected. And she was real mad about that. And then when I was flossing her teeth, she told me to get out of her mouth. And she was like, batted my hand away. She's like, get that out of my mouth. You need to be done with that. And she's like, that's enough. And I was like, okay, well, I need to floss your teeth. This will like help keep your teeth clean. She's like, I know how to clean my teeth. I just need to get out of here. She's like, sit me up. So then I sat her up in the chair and I said, all right, well, I did the best that I could, but, this is what's going to happen and she just didn't want to listen. So she left and my heart was racing because I was terrified. And that was super frustrating. So anyway, that's all. We'll just move on from that. Let's talk about something more exciting. Okay. Life in Idaho versus life in Virginia. Okay. So I made some like sections to talk about, like topics, I guess. And we'll talk about like how they are in Virginia, how they're in Idaho, and kind of which one I prefer. So we'll start with, you guessed it, driving. So driving in Virginia is like driving in Mario Kart, as you may have heard. The roads are always so busy, like almost always, no matter what time of day it is. So, well, I guess we'll start with the freeways. So they're on the freeways to go everywhere. There are always like 6, 7, 8 lanes of traffic. Like there are just so many lanes. Like the freeways are so wide, and there's always traffic somewhere, even on the freeways when you're going super fast. And people honk all the time on the freeway and on the road. And there are so many exits and on-ramps that are so close to each other. And so a lot of people will be, like swerving in and out of lanes they just got on and they need to get off on the next one, something like that. And so there will be one on-ramp, and then there will be like exit 113 A, B, and C, and they all like branch off at different places, and it's just like so chaotic. So I am not yet able to drive very many places without a map, and even with a map it's difficult because you just look at the map and it's like, okay, there's like a bunch of roads and like lanes going everywhere, and you have to just figure out which one you need to stay on. So I've gotten off on many wrong exits before, or taken an exit too soon, or just barely missed it and gone on the next one. Oh, I went on B instead of C. It's like so crazy. Once you get off the freeways though, like onto the main roads, there's a lot of really big main roads. But in Virginia, there's like no left turn lanes anywhere unless it's like on a major street. So people just trying to turn left, like everyone always gets mad at them. It's so weird. I mean, it's annoying that there's no left turn lanes, but people will be in like, say there's 2 lanes, a right lane and a left lane if you're driving straight. So someone's trying to turn left on like a random road, they'll just slow down in that left lane and signal, and there's always like oncoming traffic, and so they have to wait forever to turn left, and people get so antsy, and people will either honk or they'll swerve around like into the right lane and then pass the car. So like this has happened to me so many times where the person right in front of me, like I'll be in the left lane, the person right in front of me will turn on their signal to turn left. Also, barely anyone uses their signal, but a person will be slowing down and I'll assume that they're going to turn left, or they'll have their signal on, and I slow down and I'm like, okay, well, if there's a lot of traffic coming, like maybe I'll move over into the right lane, or I'll just wait for them. But then all the cars behind me will like either start honking or they'll move over into the right lane and like pass me and the other car. And so then if I'm like, okay, well, I'll just pass them too, like I'll go in the right lane, then I'm not able to move because all the cars behind me are just like trying to speed past me. And so then I'm just stuck behind this car that's trying to turn left. And yeah, everyone is just in a rush. So that's very interesting. In Idaho, nobody honks. Like I feel like I never hear people honk in Idaho. Like I don't know. I just, the times in Idaho that people honk are like if you're at a 4-way stop and someone's just sitting at the stop sign for like 30 seconds and then you're like, okay, hurry up, go. But I mean, that's a rare occasion. Like that just doesn't happen. And there are, I don't know, there are freeways in Idaho, I guess, that are 4-6 lanes sometimes. Like four. I don't think there are any with 6, but that's like driving into Boise, like the big city. But pretty much everywhere else, like there's one freeway that goes all the way across the whole state of Idaho, and that's all. So that is definitely very different. Also in Virginia, people turn on their hazards like no other. Like I've never seen someone in Idaho with their hazards on unless they were in like an accident or like they blew a tire and they're like on the side of the road. Like that's the only time I've ever seen people with their hazards on. But in Virginia, people use their hazards for everything. And I think it's mostly because there are never any places to park, but it is so frustrating when you're driving down like a road with just 2 lanes and you know there's only street parking and somebody wants to go and run into Starbucks and make an order. They just will stop their car in the right lane of traffic. Say Starbucks is like to your right, they'll just stop their car in the right lane of traffic, park, turn their hazards on, and go inside of Starbucks. And so then you can only drive in the left lane of traffic. So then that slows everybody down. Like I swear I see this like multiple times a day when I'm driving, and it's so annoying. And I just can't believe that people do that. I'm like, just like find a place to park. Like that is so rude to be like blocking the road in front of everyone. It's so crazy. Also, there's a bunch of buses here, and so they also like are pulled over pretty frequently, and people just, they're always in a rush, and so they always pass them, and so people are cutting you off or honking behind you. Why didn't you pass the bus? Or oh my gosh. You guys know parking is a nightmare here. Like I just said, you have to pay. Okay, let me back up. In Virginia, there aren't really parking lots. You can't find parking lots very much in like Northern Virginia, and then there's definitely not any in Washington, D.C. So you are either finding street parking, which is like impossible to find, especially when you get closer to like downtown and like the monuments and museums and stuff. Like it's impossible. And then there's also parking garages, which both you have to pay for every time. So that's kind of frustrating. In that situation, like if you're going to the monuments or like somewhere in like more downtown DC where like the White House is or where the museums are, then a lot of times it's easier to just take the metro, and the metro has a ton of different lines that go all around like Northern Virginia and DC and into Maryland. And that's usually pretty convenient, but Adam has told me that with COVID and stuff, they've really reduced like the number of trains and stuff that are running. I think they're starting to pick it back up now, but when you go to whatever station is like closest to you, sometimes you're waiting for the next train for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and that can be kind of inconvenient, and you do have to pay for the metro still. So and then you ride the metro, you go and you get to your stop, and then you still have to like walk to wherever you're going. So it's nice in some ways, but it also can be kind of inconvenient. There is no metro in Idaho. There's like barely any buses in Idaho. People just drive their cars, and I can't really think of any like street parking that there would be in Idaho. Like there are parking lots for every place, and also like houses. All the houses have driveways and garages. Houses and like places here, not a lot have garages or driveways, so like people park outside in front of their house on the street. So that's a very interesting thing about Virginia. The next section that I thought we could touch on is just people in general. I know I kind of touched on this already, but from my experience, I mean, okay, I've only been here since the end of April of this year. So I've been here May, June, July, August. Okay, like almost 5 months, I guess. But from what I've been able to tell, people in Virginia and DC are more grouchy and more like unfriendly than people in Idaho. So like just from what I've noticed so far, like people aren't super friendly when you're like walking. Like in Idaho, I feel like if you're like, if you go into a grocery store, you're like walking down the sidewalk and like you pass someone, you like both like acknowledge each other and like smile or like say hello, or I don't know, you're like talk to the person at the grocery store. But here, like it seems like people don't even like want to make eye contact with you. People are like busy doing their own thing. A lot of like grocery store workers are not very friendly. Like it just seems like nobody wants to talk and people are always in a rush. So I guess that kind of goes along with people always being in a rush and like not taking time to stop for anything. So in Idaho, I guess it's just a lot slower paced and people just kind of take their time, and it just seems like it's less rushed and people just seem to be more friendly there. The one really cool thing about people here in Northern Virginia and like DC though is like there's so much diversity, which like in Idaho there's not a lot. And so it's really been a cool experience to see like so many different kinds of people, like different ethnicities and people coming from so many different backgrounds, people coming from, there are not very many people, or a lot less people, I guess, in Idaho. If you pretty much like everyone that you talk to is like, yeah, I'm from Idaho or like I grew up in Idaho, like everyone's from there. But in like Virginia and DC, there are just so many people that you talk to that, I'd say maybe like half or more of the time people are not from like Virginia or from DC. People are from somewhere else and have come to this place to, live here for work or for travel or traveling work. Like there are a lot of things you can learn from different people here, and that's been a really cool experience and a really good like learning experience for me. All right, the next section that I wrote down was the cost. So in Virginia, the cost of living, Northern Virginia and DC, I should say, the cost of living is much higher than in Idaho. So like with all the research and things that Adam and I had to do before we came here, we knew we wanted to rent an apartment, and just doing the research and looking at apartments here and then also like looking at houses here. Oh my gosh, it's just crazy expensive. I know like everything is more expensive right now than it has been before, but like a small 1-bedroom apartment here renting is like as much or more than you would pay to own like your mortgage for like a 2-story house in Idaho, in most places in Idaho. So that has been a really big change and like something that we've had to kind of figure out. And yeah, like small houses here are $500,000, and a normal sized family home, I don't know, like a 2-story home that you would like find in Idaho for maybe about that much or less, or like $1 million here, or like 800, 900. Like it's so different. Now let's talk about food. Oh my gosh, in Virginia, there are so many restaurants here, and that is such a plus for me. Adam and I really like to go out to eat and try new places, and there's just so much here places I'd never heard of before, types of food that I haven't tried. There's easy access here to like cuisines that I've never tried before, like types of food that you haven't wouldn't normally eat. So that's one thing that I do really like, definitely a plus about living here, is just a lot of really good food and restaurants. One thing, so like in Idaho, there are a lot of like big chain restaurants, and some there also are some like just family owned restaurants, I guess, or like just restaurants that aren't chain. I can't think of what that is called right now. But there are a lot of those, just not a lot for that area, like not compared to here in Virginia. The one thing about Idaho is there are a lot of soda places. Like you can get Crumble anytime you want. There's like a bunch of different drive-thrus for like places that have flavored soda. That is not a thing in Virginia or DC, which has been a little bit sad. Like I'm not really a soda drinker, but it is fun sometimes to like go to a place and just, I don't know, like if I drink soda, I'll drink root beer, and you can't find root beer anywhere here. Like at a restaurant or like a gas station or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's just harder to come by from what I've seen. And I also loved going to the soda places because I had the best cookies, and you can just get an individual cookie, and you can't really get that here. In Virginia, also, there are a ton of like clubs and bars, like that's like what people do for fun here, like after work and on the weekends. That's like where you go to hang out with your friends and stuff. It's like a very social thing. Drinking is like a very social thing here. And so that's one thing also that's different, because in Idaho, there's not a lot of like bars and clubs and stuff really at all. I don't know, like there's some in downtown Boise, more like, there's a big college that's in Boise, and so there's a lot of like college kids that go there like downtown. But other than that, you don't have a lot of alcohol options around there, which is like, I don't drink, but I know that like a lot of people around here do. Like people drink a lot of wine here. Apparently wineries are a really big thing in Northern Virginia. And so I've had a lot of people ask me like, oh, do you like wine? Like it's so fun to like go to these wineries and you can like try all these fancy wines. And I didn't know about that. So it's another interesting fact. You guys know about my struggle with grocery stores, so I'll make this quick. But in Idaho, the main grocery stores are, I don't know, like I was so used to the Idaho stores growing up that it's so weird to not have these stores in other places. So like growing up and being in college, the grocery stores I would go to in Idaho were like Walmart, Winco. We didn't go to Target because there's not really groceries at the Targets in Idaho. Where else? Costco, I guess. There are also Sam's Clubs in Idaho. I don't know if they have that in Virginia. But I didn't really go to that place in Idaho. I'm just trying to think of some places that are different. But anyway, Winco and Walmart and Costco were probably like the big ones. And they're just like super convenient, and I feel like all of them are fairly nice. Not like fancy, but they're all like clean and safe, and like they usually have everything that you need. In Virginia, there are a lot of like random grocery stores that are like smaller businesses or just different chain grocery stores that I had never heard of before. So there's a place called Harris Teeter, there's a place called Aldi, there's a place called Giant, there's a place called Sprouts. I'm trying to think of what else. There is a Costco here. There is a Walmart, but it's like 30 minutes away. There's no Winco. Targets are like, all Targets here are like super Targets. They all have grocery stuff now, and like pretty much you can find all of your grocery things that you need at Target. So, there's also Trader Joe's. So there's Trader Joe's here. There is a Trader Joe's in Idaho, like in Boise, but I think that's maybe the only one. Like there's one kind of far away from like where my family lives, and then in eastern Idaho, like where I was in college and where Adam's from, they don't have a Trader Joe's there. So I didn't really ever go there, but now we've been going there more since we lived here in Virginia, and I really like it. The next thing that we'll talk about is weather. So I know I've really only been here for like the end of spring and summer, but in Virginia so far, obviously it's very humid. Like you step outside and it is like, feels like a sauna most days, but I don't really mind it. I feel like I hear a lot of people that are used to like drier climates that they're like, oh, humidity, it's so gross, but it doesn't really bother me. It is kind of gross when it's like super hot outside, but yeah, that doesn't like bother me a whole lot. It is warmer here, so like I've heard from my family in Idaho that in Idaho it's like starting to get to like 60s, 50s, and getting a little bit chillier, and here it's still like in the 80s. So that is interesting. I do like that it's staying warm, but I'm looking forward to it being cold. It also rains a ton here in Virginia. It rained sometimes in Pocatello, like eastern Idaho, and also in Boise, but definitely not as much as it does here in Virginia. Like it rains more than half of the days in the week, I would say, maybe half. But yeah, a lot of times you'll look at the weather here and it will look like mostly a sunny day, and then in the evening it will just like pour all night. Or like that day this last week that I was driving to work, that it was like pouring in the morning. It was like a huge storm, it looked like. And then I went out for my lunch break and the sun was out and like the rain was totally gone. So sometimes here it rains for like 10 minutes and it rains super hard and then it goes away, or sometimes it will just rain for like 1-2 days straight. From what I've seen here, maybe this is a unique year or something, but that's what I've noticed so far. I've also heard that it doesn't snow very much in Virginia. In Idaho, it definitely snows a lot. Sometimes before, like there was one year that I swear it snowed at the end of September, like the beginning of October or something. It was like super random, but it really starts to snow a lot in like January and February. But I have had many white Christmases before, so love that. I don't really think that's a thing here in Virginia. I mean, I know it snows sometimes, I've heard, but I don't think it does very much. And I have heard that in Virginia, when it snows, like everything shuts down and like schools are canceled, even when it's just a little bit, and people like freak out. Whereas like in Idaho, it's like impossible to get a snow day because everyone's just so used to snow that it's like, oh, it snowed. Yeah, good luck. You're going to drive to school in the snow. Next, we're going to talk about noise. This is kind of random, but here in Virginia, there are always sirens. And I guess that's kind of not a surprise because it is a big city. But at least once a day from like our apartment or from work, I will hear a police car siren and then also a fire truck siren. And the fire truck sounds are so weird here. I'll have to like post a video of like what it sounds like or something. That the fire truck sound here are so interesting, but they're super loud, and there's at least one of both of those every day. And that is just not how it is in Idaho. Like, I mean, there's like barely ever any sirens that I hear in Idaho. But one thing about Idaho with like Idaho noise is you can hear trains a lot. So they're like railroad trains, both in eastern Idaho and in West Idaho where Boise is. There are a lot of trains there. You can't like hear them every day, I don't think. Well, when I in college in eastern Idaho, we lived really close to where a bunch of train tracks, and so we heard those like pretty much every day. But yeah, there's a lot of railroad tracks, and if you live by those, then like you always try to dodge that road because you don't want to like get stuck behind a train and have to wait for like the cars to pass, and sometimes that takes forever. So there are definitely not like railroad trains in Northern Virginia or DC that I've seen. Maybe there are. I don't really think there are. But yeah, that's definitely something different. Another thing is that there are just more bugs here. I've had to accept that sad fact. You guys know I hate bugs. I'm terrified of them. I just don't like them. And there are just more bugs here. There are different kinds of bugs that I've never seen before. And the bugs that I have seen, there are a ton more of them. And I don't know if it's because it's warmer here for longer or because of the humidity, because there's more trees, probably all of those. But yeah, there are a lot more bugs here. There's a lot of mosquitoes, cicadas you can still hear. You can't really see them anymore, luckily, but you can hear them. I've seen a lot of ladybugs, and that's fun because I like ladybugs. A lot more spiders, obviously. I was in our room yesterday and just talking to Adam, and then I see out of the corner of my eye a red spider that is rappelling down its freaking web down out of our vent in the ceiling in our room, and I'm like watching it go down, and I was like, oh, you're kidding. So Adam saved the day and caught it and flushed down the toilet. But nope, bugs don't leave you alone here, and that's for sure. The last section that I have is landscape, I guess. Here in Virginia, there are a ton of trees. It's just so green, probably because of how much rain there is. There aren't, I can't really see any mountains from here. Really, you can like see, it seems pretty flat. And you could pretty much just see like all the big buildings and like the city and stuff, but there aren't mountains around here. There is a place here that's like 30 minutes away from like Washington DC, I think, maybe like 30 minutes or an hour, called Shenandoah, and I haven't been there, but I think it's like a valley, and so they kind of have some mountains there. I don't think they're big mountains like in Idaho, but I haven't been there yet. We need to go. Anyway, but yeah, for the most part, it seems more flat. Maybe some hills. There is a really big river, like a huge river, the Potomac, that runs through DC and Northern Virginia, and there are like these massive bridges that you have to drive across from Northern Virginia to get into DC, and so that's kind of cool and also scary. But yeah, so you drive over this huge river, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, tons of trees. In Idaho, there are like mountains everywhere you look, even if you're not like close to a big mountain range, like you can see one usually. But there's also a lot of just like barren land, like in between the big cities. So the drive on the freeway from like eastern Idaho to west Idaho is very boring. There is a ton of farmland and not a lot of like city type stuff until you're like in a city. And even when you're in a city in Idaho, other than Boise, there aren't really ever like there aren't very many like big tall buildings. There's no skyscrapers, no nothing like that. So that's definitely a big difference. Oh, about the weather too, I forgot to say. In Idaho, the weather when it's not snowing is very much like the same every day. It's very windy in Idaho, and it's also very dry. So like the summer, there's a lot of just like dry heat, and it's the weather's kind of like the same all the time. Like it either like snows, or it's like super hot, or it's sunny and windy, kind of. Okay, those are all the topics that I have. And if you ask me which one I like better overall, I'm still trying to decide. Really, I think I'm an Idaho girl. Which very much surprises me. I don't know why, but when I was younger, in like middle school, high school, even in college, I really wanted to be a city girl. I grew up in Idaho. I'd always lived in like a smaller-ish town. I mean, it seemed like it's like a bigger town for Idaho that I grew up in, but definitely not big in comparison to the East Coast and Northern Virginia, like where we are now. So I was really eager to get away and move to a big city and see how I liked it. I wanted to be busy and, kind of be in like the hustle and bustle of things and be a busy person just like everyone is here. And I wanted to ride the metro everywhere, and I wanted to go to every big building. I wanted to walk everywhere. And I feel like now being here, I'm like, oh, I think I'm kind of a slower pace kind of person. Like I cannot keep up with these guys. And I definitely am working on enjoying it and not being afraid of it, because it definitely is very intimidating, more than I thought it would be. And I've just been kind of surprised, because I thought that I would come here to Northern Virginia and DC and be just so in love with it and just love like how everything is so fast paced, and loved kind of like the chaos of it. And I've just been really surprised at how I've kind of like struggled with it. And there are just things about this area that are just so different from Idaho. And I think part of it is that I'm just so used to, I was just always so used to how things were in Idaho. And so to have this change and live in a different place and just have so many differences, I think a lot of these things I prefer Idaho. But it has been such an amazing experience to be in a new place. Like I was talking to another friend a couple weeks ago that I was in dental hygiene school with, and she was like, there aren't very many people that get to do what you're getting to do. Like people in Idaho, a lot of people in Idaho love to just stay in Idaho, and that's where their families are, and that's where their lives are, and that is so great. But she said, take advantage of this time that you have to be somewhere completely different, and enjoy learning about the culture there, and the kinds of people that are there, and like just the easy access to so many things here. She said like enjoy that and learn like everything you can from that experience, because like you're super lucky to be there. And so that was a really good reminder for me to just kind of soak up being here. And I have no idea how long we're going to be here for. Maybe we'll live here for a long time, maybe we won't. We kind of have no idea right now. We're just really using this time, taking advantage of this time to start both of our careers and kind of figure out what we like and what we don't like about living on the East Coast and living away from family and living in a big city. Like just kind of it's really good for us to have the opportunity to kind of figure out what we like and what we don't like and what will be best for us. So anyway, still deciding, still trying to figure it out, but both are very wonderful and both have got their pros and cons, obviously. But yeah, if you guys have questions about either of these places or a different kind of subject that I didn't cover, I would love to do something similar to this, say a year from now, and kind of see how my opinion has changed, and maybe if I can think of some other things, some other differences and similarities between these places, then I think that would be fun. So let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode about Idaho and Virginia and how it is living in both of these places. Thanks for listening to Traffic Jam, and don't worry, you're not the only one who gets nervous when people are grouchy to you. All right, bye.